markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Blue. Asian shares are mostly lower on Friday after U.S. President Donald Trump announces new tariff plans, including a 100% import tax on pharmaceutical drugs starting October 1. Singapore's Straits Times and Australia's ASX are currently trading higher, while the rest of the region are in the red. In currencies, the U.S. dollar is trading stronger against the South Korean won and the Thai baht, but weaker against other major Asian currencies. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, is trading higher against the greenback. In commodities, gold is trading higher while oil prices are mixed. In crypto, Bitcoin is trading up 0.2%, while Ethereum is trading nearly 2% higher. The Bangko Sentral launches an investigation into large cash flows into the financial system, which may have links to anomalous flood control projects. BSP Governor Eli Romilona says they are looking into any financial transaction that looks unusual. The BSP previously issued a circular limiting the value of large cash transactions to ₱500,000 pesos per banking day. The move aims to prevent unscrupulous individuals from making large bank withdrawals. President Bongbong Marcos realigns 36 billion pesos worth of flood control funds to the Social Welfare Department. The president made the announcement during a meeting with select beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program in Malacanang. The funds will be allocated to the DSWD's 4Ps program and also to assist individuals in crisis situations or the IX program, among others.
Halos 36 na bilyong piso na pondo galing sa DPWH na nakuha natin sa flood control project. Itong halagang ito ay ilalaan natin sa mga programa ng DSWD. Kasama na rito ang tinatawag na assistance to individuals in crisis situations o ang pagkakilala ng karamihan ay yung AIX at saka yung Sustainable Livelihood Program. Dahil sa karagdagang pondo ng AIX program, dadami ang ating mga kababayan na matutulungan sa panahon ng emergency tulad ng madaliang operasyon, pambili ng maintenance o gamot, at iba pang mga gastos para sa pagpapagaling.
The Commission on Elections is investigating 55 contractors suspected of making illegal campaign donations during the 2022 general elections. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia says their Political and Finance Affairs Department is coordinating with the Public Works Department. He adds 3 contractors are linked to candidates with positions much higher than senatorial bets. A representative of controversial contractor Lawrence Lobiano, president of Center Rays Construction and Development Incorporated, went to the COMELEC office on Wednesday to explain his campaign donation to Senator Francis Escudero last May 2022. Escudero will also be summoned by the poll body. The clock is ticking for Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldy Co. The Justice Department will request a blue notice for him. A blue notice from Interpol aims to locate, identify, or obtain information on a person of interest in a criminal investigation. House Speaker Faustino D. has given him until Monday to return and face allegations relating to the flood control mess. D says failure to comply will be construed as a refusal to subject Co to the lawful processes of the House and will lead to disciplinary and legal actions. The Speaker issued the ultimatum Friday in response to Co's reply to his revoked travel clearance. Co's communication has been referred to the House Ethics Committee, where a complaint is pending. DSWD adds that the House will coordinate with authorities to ensure Co's safety if he returns. The flood control scandal widens. The National Bureau of Investigation now recommends charges against Senator Francis Cheese Escudero and former Senator Nancy Binay for indirect bribery and malversation of public funds. This after the revelations of former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla confirms all persons named by Bernardo are included in the list of those to be charged. Among others implicated, Representative Zaldy Co, former Senator Bong Revilla, Education Undersecretary Trijiv Olaivar, and Commission on Audit Commissioner Mario Lipana. Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Panfilo Lacson wants a full background check on their surprise witness on Thursday, Orly Guteza, who claims to be a former security consultant for Congressman Zaldy Co. Lacson says they have to scrutinize Guteza's credibility, citing the gravity of his allegations. Guteza testified he personally delivered suitcases of money to the residence of Co and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. But Romualdez asserts Guteza's testimony was, quote, clearly political and the product of coaching, unquote. Lawyer Petchi Rose Espera also denies notarizing Guteza's affidavit, adding that her name and notarial seal were fraudulently used on the document. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon suspends 6 personnel at the DPWH Baguio District Engineering Office, led by District Engineer Rene Zarate. They have been ordered to explain the alleged rigging and manipulation of the bidding process for infrastructure projects in the city. They're given 5 days to submit their explanation as to why they shouldn't face an administrative case. The move is in response to the marching order of President Bongbong Marcos to hold accountable those behind anomalous infra projects. We're taking a short break. More stories are coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. Back on Business Brief, the Bureau of Customs confiscates 5.55 million pesos in undeclared cash from a Japanese passenger at Mactan, Cebu Airport. Only 50,000 pesos was returned to the passenger, while the rest were seized for lack of BSP clearance. The seizure underscores the BOC's crackdown on money laundering and undeclared cash crossing Philippine borders. BOC officials reiterate that carrying Philippine currency above 50,000 without authorization is prohibited. Manila city officials are closely monitoring the effects of severe tropical storm Opong, which has made 6 landfalls and passed over Sibuyan and Tablas Islands in Romblon. Paulo Barcelon is in Manila and he joins us now live for the latest. Hi, Paulo, what is the situation there?
Mai, compared to the last few hours this Friday afternoon, weather is calmer, at least here in the city of Manila. As you can see behind me, we are currently beside Manila Bay, where the mobile pumping station of the MMDA was deployed in response to potential flooding. Now, earlier this Friday afternoon, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and MMDA Chairman Don Artes inspected this mobile pumping station, and it is one of 6 that are currently deployed due to severe tropical storm Opong. The units have a 1 cubic meter capacity, and they can fill 1.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools per hour. Now, Mai, just to give context, these mobile swimming pools, or rather mobile pumping stations, have or cost 12 to 15 million pesos per unit, made in China. For context, if the government decides to sell, for example, the GMC that was surrendered by former DPWH Assistant District Engineer Bryce Hernandez, they could already procure one of these units. These units are made in China and was procured earlier this year. And Artes says the MMDA will most likely ask the Department of Budget and Management and both houses of Congress to probably reallocate funds to from the budget savings that was supposed to be from the DPWH to allot for additional units of these mobile pumping stations. Now, when it comes to the situation here in the city of Manila, we are checking since this morning, and it has been a very calm weather here. No flooding reported, especially in areas that are usually flooded here in Manila, such as Taft Avenue and Calo Avenue. Mai.
All right, thank you for that report, Paulo Barcelon. Consumer sentiment improves in the second half of the year and over the next 12 months, but businesses remain less optimistic about the economy. Results from the latest Consumer Expectations Survey of the Bangko Sentral show Filipino consumers are less pessimistic in the third quarter, supported by new income sources, higher earnings, and more working family members. The overall Consumer Confidence Index improves to negative 9.8% in the third quarter of 2025, up from negative 14% in the second quarter. Consumers also expect inflation over the next 12 months to stay within the national government's target range, indicating well-anchored household inflation expectations. The BSP notes that stable inflation supports investments and job creation. More rate cuts may be on the table soon, but only if the economy starts to slow. The Bangko Sentral could trim borrowing costs again as early as October if the economy shows signs of losing momentum. BSP Governor Eli Remolona says that if output weakens because of soft demand, the central bank would respond by lowering policy rates further to support activity. However, he notes that monetary policy won't fix supply-driven slowdowns such as oil or food shocks. Action can only be taken decisively if weakness comes from the demand side. The Philippine economy is not growing as fast as it should. Alex Escucha, fellow of the Foundation for Economic Freedom, tells BNC's Business 360 that the country's gross domestic product should be growing by 8 to 10%. This is due to persistent corruption issues hounding the Philippines.
For example, in 2020, our GDP dropped by 9.5% and 19.5% in the second quarter alone, the quarter of the lockdown. During that same year, Vietnam did not slow down. It even overtook us in terms of per capita income and has continuously leaving us behind. So I take it with a grain of salt. Any statement that says, "Oh, we are still one of the fastest growing economies in the region," because I would always ask, in relation to what? In relation to what we should be growing according to the goals of Ambition 2040, we should be growing by 8 to 10%. And even Secretary R.C. Balisacan has issued a statement about 2 weeks ago that is no longer possible.
He also slams the Ombudsman's rule restricting access to statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth, saying it should be scrapped.
But to me, one action that legal groups like the Integrated Bar of the Philippines could file a suit in the Supreme Court to reverse the what I call a stupid rule by the Ombudsman to restrict access to the SALN, and Martires even criminalizes any comment on the SALN, which practically neutralizes the constitutional provision of the right of the public to information on matters of public interest.
We're taking another breather. A look at how Philippine shares did today when we return. Stay tuned. U.S. President Donald Trump announces that branded pharmaceutical products will be subject to a 100% tariff starting October 1st unless its manufacturer opens a factory in the U.S. Trump has been threatening to levy tariffs on pharmaceutical imports, which did not happen during his first term. He also sees tariffs as a way to bring down the cost of medicine. Because of this, many drug makers have committed to establish manufacturing operations in the U.S. worth billions of dollars. Australia's Health Minister Mark Butler cries foul over President Trump's 100% pharmaceutical tariffs. He says they are talking to Australia's drug firms who may be affected by this. He also assures the public that they will work to protect their interests.
I guess our job now is to protect the interests of Australians, most importantly Australian patients who have benefited for almost 80 years from the PBS, a great Labor legacy from the 1940s, and also to do what we can to support Australian companies who might be hit by what we regard as unfair, unjustified tariffs after 20 years of free trade.
Starbucks is shrinking its footprint to revive its brand. The coffee giant announces it is closing underperforming stores in North America. That includes its iconic Seattle roastery. CEO Brian Niccol is leading a restructuring plan expected to cost $1 billion aimed at restoring the chain's traditional coffeehouse feel and winning back customers. Starbucks says its total U.S. and Canada store count will drop by about 1% or several hundred stores by the end of fiscal year 2025. Philippine shares slide for the fifth straight session. The PSEI drops 0.2% to 60.27, making it the ninth worst performer in Asia. Sectoral indices are mixed, with property falling the most by over 1%, while mining and oil gains the most at 0.7%. Decliners outnumber advancers 110 to 82, with value turnover reaching 5.5 billion pesos. Week on week, the PSEI is down almost 4%. Majority of the day's most active stocks are in the red, with Globe Telecom falling nearly 3%. On currencies, the peso trades at 58.28 against the U.S. dollar, weakening from the previous close of 58.10. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.